शुरू हो गया?
हाँ गुरु।
गुरवे गौरचंद्राय वंदेऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथं वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakandridamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Govigaganta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshani Vijamano Sade Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nihitananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivadari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaiti Jaiti Namananda Rupam Murare Viramiti Jarar Madhyana Pujariyatam Katamapi Sakridatam Muktinam Prananam Yat Paramamritam Ekanam Jivanam Bhushanam Me. So we're reading from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Eastern section, second wave, Sadhana Bhakti. So the different aims of devotional service were explained. And so the last verse explained that the 5 items, Bhatrapurna'an, so having conceivable and astonishing power. So that refers to Mathuravas, Pritipurvak, Murti Seva, and Sadhu Sangha, Bhagavad Shravan, and Nam Kirtan, which is the most important. So it was explained that of course one should have faith in them. And then also an important point that persons who are devoid of offenses can attain the level of bhav. So we have to try to avoid offenses. Namaparad, Sevaparad, Dhammaparad, Vaishnavaparad. So they have to be avoided. So here. So Sadhyam had been explained. So that actually of course means transcendental intelligence, and so that means also have the proper mentality. They don't have an offensive mentality, so that has to be avoided. So Matra verse has been explained. And then Tatra Srimurti Yatha, the power of serving the deity. So very famous verse is quoted now. Smeram Bangidi Traya Parichitam Sachi Vistiyana Drishtim Vamsinyastadara Kichalayam Uttalam Chandrahikena Govindakyam Haritanam Eta Kesitito Pokant Ma Prekshitas Tavayadi Satya Bandhu Samristi Arangaha. Oh my friend, if you desire to enjoy with your friends and relatives, then do not look upon the form of the Lord called Govinda, wandering near Keshitirtha on the bank of the Jamuni river, with a slight smile on his lips, posed with three bands in his body, eyes glancing everywhere in a crooked fashion, flute placed on his red lower lip like a tender bud and shining gloriously with a peacock feather. Jiva Goswami's commentary. Using his own sweet words, the author in 5 verses that follow expresses his ecstasy about the 5 items that he had mentioned in verses 90 to 92. By saying, do not look, the author actually means that one must look at Krishna. By experiencing the sweetness of the Lord's form, you will consider everything else to be insignificant. Therefore, look at that form of Krishna. This is the intention of the prohibition. So interesting here that is mentioned in regards to the power of serving the deity. Deity of the Lord, Prabhupada used to say that the deity in the temple, Krishna in the heart, and Krishna in Golok. And of Krishna, and Krishna Nam is no different. It was a side में रख दोगे, उस side वहाँ पर रख दो. पूरा ले लो, stand के साथ. वहाँ पर कोनों में. So beautiful verse here, famous verse. So Smeram Bangi Traya. We should remember the beautiful form of Krishna bent in 3 places. Tribang Lalit Shama Sundar. And so when you see or remember the form, or here is explaining Jiva Goswami in a commentary by experiencing the sweetness of the Lord. So the realization is there and everything else is insignificant. So Krishna is mentioned here. So his flute placed on his red lower lips, and he's shining gloriously. So with a peacock feather. So Krishna is famous for having the flute and also a peacock feather. Of course, also Pitamba Vesh. Krishna is well known for wearing a yellow dhoti. So the color yellow is very much liked by Krishna because it is reminding him of Srimati Radharani. So he must embrace Srimati Radharani. So he has the yellow dhoti and yellow chadar. Similarly, Radharani, she has a blue dress. So reminding her of Krishna. So text 240, see Bhagavatam Yatha. The power of hearing Bhagavatam. Sankenita Sapadita Shamaskanda Padyavalinam Banakanadvani Padikatam Anupravyat Pavadvi Ham Hodhimbha Parama Subhadran Hanta Dharmartakaman Yadgar Hanta Sukamayam Amimokshamapi Akshipanti. Oh idiots, how unfortunate you are. I think that you must have been hearing all the syllables one by one of the verses of the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, because your ears are now denouncing the most auspicious goals of Dharma, Artha and Kama, and even decrying the fourth goal of liberation, which is most blissful. This is a praise, Jiva Goswami's commentary. So this is a praise of the Bhagavatam using the device of criticism. So that is there in the scriptures, Alankar Shastra also. So by negating them, actually the positive or the opposite is desirable, just like in the previous verse. Don't look upon the form of Govinda at the bank of the Jamuna, but actually wants to say look upon Krishna. Similarly here, how unfortunate you are. So idiots. So, but actually, if one is hearing, then one is most fortunate. Because usually, as mentioned here in this verse, so that your ears are now denouncing the most auspicious goals of Dharma, Artha and Kama. That is, for ordinary persons, they are engaged in some religious activity, Dharma, but here, of course, it will mean Varna Ashram or Namitika Dharma, whereas we are interested actually in Nitya Dharma, in devotional service to Krishna. But by performing one's duty according to scriptures, which is Dharma, then one will get some result, Artha, and then Kama, such qualification is there. That is usually desired by pious persons, but they may not be interested in serving Krishna, the Supreme Lord. So, and then even want to speak of liberation. So which, especially Mayavadis, they want to merge in the impersonal Brahman, liberation. But the devotees, they are not interested in liberation, they are interested in bhakti, devotional service. And so, liberation?
From what? From material life?
From material life. Oh yeah, yeah. Of course, as devotees, we may also want liberation from this material existence. But actually, we should know and we should have faith that if we are engaged in devotional service, we become liberated. But it takes some time, and therefore the devotees are sometimes also praying to be free from this material existence. Because there are so many difficulties in this world. If we are liberated from the difficulties, then we should be blissful. Of course, the Mayavad is also that is mentioned as Brahmananda, merging in the Brahman effulgence, the absolute truth, which is Param Brahma, Krishna, and his effulgence, that is the Brahma Jyoti. Merging in that, there's some kind of bliss there, but it is insignificant because there is no activity there, there is no exchange with Krishna. So, and here the point is that by hearing the verses of the Bhagavatam and just hearing the syllables of the verses one by one will actually get transcendental pleasure, and one becomes free from these miseries of this material existence. There's one verse also mentioning that by hearing or speaking the Bhagavatam, one becomes free from all miseries. And then Prabhupada in purport is writing that at least temporarily, because we are here in this world, material world, which is full of miseries, adhyatmic, adibhautik, adidaivik, from one's own body and mind, from natural disturbances, from other living entities. So constantly actually some difficulties will be there. But if one is hearing Harikatha, then one is hearing about Krishna, Krishna's wonderful pastimes, and then one will feel actually no difficulty. One will forget the difficulties. And Prabhupada is writing at least for the time being, because we're hearing and wonderful descriptions are there of Krishna or Krishna's incarnations here in Bhagavatam. So when we are hearing or speaking, then we can be absorbed, and then we don't feel the difficulties which are there, or at least not so much. But as soon as the class is over, then we may again feel the difficulties from the body or something in the consciousness.
Depends on the class.
It depends on the class also.
Then you're inspired. If a good, advanced person was given a class, then you get to taste.
Right.
If
Yeah. Yes. A good point is made here, that if the speaker is, of course, bona fide, if the speaker is advanced, when the speaker is enlivened, then the audience will get some inspiration by hearing the enlivening class, by hearing about Krishna, Krishna's wonderful pastimes. Then one will get some taste, some pleasure, and then one will forget this material existence. So, Jiva Goswami's commentary continuing. These in the previous verses are examples of the literary ornament called aprastuta prashamsa. So that is from the scriptures. Conveying the subject by something that is not the subject. Prashamsa, glorification. Aprastut, so so here conveying the subject by something that is not the subject. So here denouncing the most auspicious goal of Dharma, Artha, Kam. So auspicious goals are there for ordinary persons, Dharma, Artha, Kam and Moksha. That is auspicious, most auspicious. But But if one is engaged in devotional service, then that becomes insignificant. So it seems to be here that he's glorifying Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. But actually he's glorifying the Bhagavatam. So the intelligent person will understand. But other persons, or those who are not so advanced, they will think, what kind of verse is this? We know the Bhagavatam is no different from the Lord. And so how is saying that you are unfortunate? So by hearing the Bhagavatam, so because it's referring to Dharma, Artha and Kama. Karya nimitte samanya vishesha prastute sati tad anyasya vachas tulya tulyasati cha panchada. This is Kavya Prakash. So in regards to Kavya, so poetry, so that has been explained. When relevant topics are introduced in reference to the topic at hand, it is called aprastuta prashamsa. So, prastut means that which is actually present. Or prastut karna. So, that is established. So, but aprastut, so that is indirect glorification, prashamsa. There are 5 types of these. Stating the effect when the cause is the subject. So, stating the effect when the cause is the subject. Stating the cause when the effect is the subject. Stating the general when the particular is the subject. Stating the particular when the general is the subject. And stating similarity. Yeah.
Very good.
Let me see. The examples should be there. What?
What are you reading?
This is Bhakti Rasamrita Singh.
Okay.
So instead of the general topic, details of the topic are introduced. So the general topics are serving the deity and hearing the Bhagavatam, but details are introduced as a focus. The aim is actually to become aware of the greatness of the general topic. So the general topic is the Bhagavatam, hearing Bhagavatam and serving the deity. So then, but then details are introduced as a focus. So here the detail in this particular verse. So auspicious goal of Dharma, Artha and Kama and Moksha. So that is a detail. So moreover, in the previous verse, because the intention is to praise former Buddha, the little statement that forbids one from seeing Govinda is not the real meaning. Similarly, in the present verse, the real meaning is not contempt for hearing Bhagavatam expressed by saying, "O fools, Hamodimba," because the auspiciousness of Dharma or Karma and the happiness achieved through liberation are actually surpassed. By the supreme bliss attained by Bhav, induced through the hearing of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. In these two verses, the subjects are praised by the use of extreme criticism. To praise an object by criticizing it is the ornament called Vyaja Stuti, indirect eulogy. So that is Alankar Shastra.
Praising by criticizing?
Yes. To praise an object by criticizing it is the ornament called Vyaja Stuti. Like here, oh idiots, how unfortunate you are that you're hearing the Bhagavatam. But actually they want to say that you're fortunate that you're hearing the Bhagavatam. So those who are highly learned and scholarly, they will understand. Others they will not understand. Of course, those who are engaged in devotional service, the devotees, even they may not be highly advanced, but by the Lord's mercy, because of their devotional service, they will also understand. So, yes, so 5 types are mentioned here. So by trying to go deeper, so we can have some examples also by reflecting upon it. So stating the effect when the cause is the subject. And let's see what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying. Vana eva kana dvani pati katam nita means the syllables of the Bhagavatam have become travelers on the pathways belonging to the ears. The implication is that the foolish persons have not understood the meaning of what they have heard, just hearing syllables. Or idiots, Dimba, you must have been hearing, because from hearing those syllables, those ears are now criticizing Dharma, Artha and Kama and deriding even liberation. By extreme criticism in the 2 verses, one can understand the author is praising the subjects in the 2 verses. This is the ornament called Vyaja Stuti. So the Goswamis, they were very scholarly. All the acharyas actually, they were great scholars in Sanskrit language and in poetry, like Rupa Goswami. Of course, he wrote many books in Sanskrit, and so one book is known as Chamatkar Chandrika. No, Chitra Kavitvani, Chamatkar Chandrika, that is by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, explaining some wonderful pastimes of Krishna. And then, but the book by Rupa Goswami is Chitra Kavitvani. So Kavitvani means poetical verses, and Chitra, which are very, very fascinating, very amazing. So these are truly very amazing. So, for example, using one syllable like Ra, of course with Ra, U, Ra, Ru, Ri, and so on. So he's composing a verse. So, and it sounds very interesting when you hear it. And of course, those who then know Sanskrit, they will appreciate the meaning. And in these verses, which are really amazing, so with these verses is actually glorifying Krishna and Braj. One verse you can read from beginning to the end, or you read from the end to the beginning, and so the same meaning will be there. Or sometimes, so which is really amazing, because the Sanskrit language is most wonderful and rich and amazing. And for example, for one object you may have different verse, different names, or different different words are there, just like for the sun, Surya, Bhaskar, Aditya, Ravi, and so on. So there may be 12 names are there actually.
And distributions, as is the same or is slightly?
No, but so basically addressing the sun at the same time, just like for example Mitra is another name for the sun. Mitra means our friend.
But to the sun.
To the sun, yeah. So Mitra refers to the sun. Mitra means also friend. And because especially now in the winter, we really like the sun. And today I was so happy to see when the sun came out at 1 o'clock. My friend. Of course, when it is 50 degrees in the shade, in the summer, then we do pranam to the sun and just go quickly inside because it's too hot. So the word Mitra refers to the sun, but then it refers also to a friend. And then, for example, we have aham, I, which here usually it means the spirit soul, it refers to the soul. But aham can also refer to the super soul. Or for example, Atma, same with Atma. So Atma refers to the soul, but Aham of course means I. And Atma, so that means the soul. And that is, of course, we are spirit soul, we are not this body. But then also Atma can so refer again to the super soul, Paramatma. Or depending on how it is used, it can refer to the body, or even to the consciousness, the mind, the word Atma, according to the Sanskrit Shabdakosh dictionary. And just like the famous verse, Atma Ramashtam Muni or Nigrantya Piyokrama Kurvantya Hitukim Bhakti Tambuto Guno Harihi, from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So once Bhattacharya was speaking Vedanta Sutra to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu was just listening humbly. And then, so after speaking for, I believe it was 9 days, and then Sarvabhauma asked Mahaprabhu, so you're not asking any question, what's happening? You're not understanding the subject matter? And Mahaprabhu said, well, I very well understand the Vedanta Sutta verses, but your explanation is very much bewildering. So it doesn't make sense, in other words. So then he was astonished a little bit, Sarvabhauma, and baffled, and then he said, okay, then you say something. And then he quoted the Atmaram verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Atmaramaschamuno Yanikariti Parukrama. Explaining, and there he was explaining the verse. So what is the meaning of Atmaram? So that is one who is taking pleasure in the self. That is a Muni, a great sage, or of course a devotee, pure devotee, but Krishna is also known as Atmaram. He's taking pleasure in the self. He's the source of everything. Paramanand is the source of the greatest bliss. And then, so he's breaking out the verse, and it's Atmaram. What is the meaning of Atmaram? Atmaram, Cha, Muni, and so on. And so then the different meanings of the different words are there. Cha. And so different meanings of Atma, Ram, and so on. So he's explaining to some extent. And then when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling, and so it was Braj also. And when he was in Varanasi, then Sanatana Goswami met him and took shelter of him. And then he asked Mahaprabhu to explain again this verse also, Atmaravascha Muniyo. And then he was explaining very elaborately the different meanings of the words and then the meaning of the verse. So the Sanskrit language is very rich, very wonderful. So Chitra Kavitvan is in these verses, so this nice glorification of Krishna at the same time. And these are, so to say, masterpieces, these verses. One of my favorite small books of Rupa Goswami. And Baladev Vidyabhushan, so he has, because if you just read the verses, so when I first read the verses, I appreciated the meaning of the verses, but so I couldn't see the hidden things which are there in the verse. But then, so Baladev Vidyabhushan, so he has actually commented on these verses. And he has explained these verses and shown what a genius Rupa Goswami is. So, in regards to Sanskrit, and of course in regards to Bhakti ultimately. And Baladev Vidyabhushan, also a great scholar. It's also genius that he could actually, of course, because of his learning and because he's a devotee, also a pure devotee. Therefore, the hidden things were revealed to him, and then he, for the benefit of the practicing devotee, then he revealed the hidden meanings. It's very wonderful.
Question about Goswamis.
Yes.
So, Goswamis, they like jumped over the stage of sannyasi directly to Paramahamsa because they didn't have dandas? How is that? Because they didn't have dandas, right?
Yeah, the Goswamis, they were renunciants, and so they were living in a very simple way in Braj. And yes, so to say, they were like Babajis, yes. Just wearing some long cloth, some simple lungi, short one. And one, of course, usually we always have uttariya, an upper cloth. Uttariya, an upper cloth. But of course, in the pictures, you don't see that also, you just see the kind of lungi, short dress.
Why is it you go through sannyasi?
Huh?
So my question is like, why is it didn't go through this sannyasi stage?
Yes, that's why they were not going to the sannyasi stage. Yes, that is a good question. Because many of Mahaprabhu's followers, they were entering the sannyas ashram in Jagannath Puri. So Paramananda Puri, or so I believe there were 8 sannyasis there. Can't remember their names. So whereas the 6 Goswamis, they were, of course, for example, Rup Sanatan. So this, I mentioned they were householders, but then they gave up everything. Whereas others like Gopal Bhatta Goswami, they were brahmacharis, or they were celibate. And then they came to Braj, like Raghunath Bhatta, Gopal Bhatta, Jiv Goswami. So they were brahmacharis. Whereas Raghunath Das was also married. But then they all left and they were renunciants. So I mean, obviously, so they felt there's no need for us to enter the sannyas ashram. Let us just live very simple as renunciants. But I haven't read or I haven't heard that even they formally entered the Babaji ashram, like nowadays many times. So they may have a ceremony. But ultimately, so even that is not even so much required. So therefore not everyone will do that. So that they will simply give up most of their belongings and just have a simple cloth. And they are absorbed in devotional service. So these are external formalities which we may, and which usually is adopted to set the example for others. But those who are highly advanced, they may choose not to do that. So the 6 Goswamis, they are eternal associates of the Lord. And so they choose to be renunciants, or of course by the will of the Lord also. They were renunciants. And but they didn't formally so have some ceremony for that purpose, to show that we are renunciants now. We did the ceremony because there was actually no need for them, for those who are highly advanced. So they may engage in devotional service then spontaneously They don't have to follow the rules and regulations which are there. But mostly they will do just to set the example. If they do it, it's fine, it is good. If they don't do, it doesn't matter either. And those who are intelligent, they will respect them. And they will take shelter of them. So, and the sixth one is were renunciants, but so they didn't, at least we have not heard, we have not read that there was some ceremony there, which is, of course, fine, because they are naturally attracted to Krishna, because they are the eternal associates of Krishna. Also, they don't have to practice renunciation, it is natural for them. They're so much absorbed. And by the way, they have to eat something. And so Krishna has to remind them within the heart, hey, it's time to take prasad now, it's time to eat something. One time even Radharani, she came. She was seeing they're not eating, just simply discussing Harikatha. So then Radharani, so of course she's a gopi, and so but then she was a kind of disguised, so that Rupa Goswami could not understand that she's Radharani. And then she said, I'm seeing you just talking about Krishna all day and you're not eating anything. So maybe you can accept some rice and milk and some gur or some shakar, so sugar from the sugar cane, and you can make some sweet rice. He said, okay, fine, keep it here, we'll see after. And started again conversing with Sanatana Goswami. Then Radharani, okay, they're busy, so we just cook, and she cooked the sweet rice. And then at the opportune moment she told Rupa Goswami, look here, I made a kheer because you're busy. Oh, okay, thank you very much. And mentally offered to the Lord. And then offered to Mahaprabhu. I offered to Sanatana Goswami, then Sanatana Goswami also. Wonderful taste of this kheer. Where you got that from? And said, one girl came and she gave the ingredients and asked me to cook for you. But then we are busy talking about Krishna. So then she cooked and gave it to me. And Sanatana Goswami rebuked Rupa Goswami, what are you doing? This was Srimati Radharani herself. So he realized. So be careful, don't take any seva from Srimati Radharani or the Lord. So that is there in the wonderful exchange of Krishna and his devotees. So, and so here, and the point is, that the Lord is glorified, and or the process of devotional service is glorified at the same time. So here it is done in an indirect way, in the opposite way actually. So So criticizing the form of the Lord, Sri Murti, externally, or the hearing of the Bhagavatam. So, of course, Bhagavatam is also no different from Krishna. But the opposite actually is meant. So, that the Bhagavatam is glorious, and one who is hearing is fortunate. That is what he wants to say. But according to the Sanskrit poetry, so it is a glorification of the hearing process, and then also, of course, of the Bhagavatam, the Lord. So that is the Sanskrit of this processes of devotional service. So in Sanskrit it has been explained. The Angas Mahatvapurna Ang, so the relevant verses are given. Of course, so many other verses are there in glorification of the Bhagavatam, glorification of serving the deity, and so on. But here the glorification is done in a, so to say, negative expression, but actually it is still, of course, ultimately a positive. But to the layman it appears to be negative. And the only man they may not understand, devotees. But by the mercy of Hari Guru Vaishnava, if one is sincerely engaged in devotional service, then so everything is revealed, and one may understand. So that is aprastuta prashamsa. So glorification of something which is actually so presented, prastut, so it is presented. But not the actual thing is presented, but something else. Aprastut prashamsa, which is not actually, so it is done intentionally, so but that is just in Sanskrit, it is the ornamented alankar, so glorification, but in a negative way, externally, but actually it is all, of course, positive. It is just a way of glorification, which is there according to Alankar Shastra, the scripture which are explaining this use of the Sanskrit in these verses in a certain way. So sometimes it is difficult actually for already devotees to understand. But then we simply have to hear and appreciate what is said, what is mentioned even we may not be able to understand at present. But then some benefit will be there. And purification will be there of one's existence. So, and then slowly but surely we can advance. So basically in all the scriptures that is seen, Chitta Chitamrita also, of course here in Bhagavatam also Chitta Chitamrita. So there also. Chitta, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is explained. So I'm writing these things, sometimes confidential things, which actually should not be told, because the people are not qualified to understand. At the same time, if I'm not explaining, then nobody will understand. So therefore I have to explain. And then those who are fortunate will understand, and those who are not having the qualification, they will not understand. And those who are maybe not yet qualified, but who are sincere, then after some time they may understand also. So, so the scriptures in Bharatvarsha are most wonderful, most rich, and so it is our good fortune that we are able to read, to hear, to understand to some extent. It's about wonderful Krishna, it's about wonderful Krishna, about the process of devotional service. So Krishna has to be in the center, and then we perform our devotional service. And then we'll advance slowly but surely. Krishna Bhakta Yatha, the power of association with the devotee of Krishna. Trigambo Bhedota Pulaha Pulaka Patali Mandita Tanu Skalan Antapulo Dadha Tati Pritum Vipatum Api Trisho Kaksham Yavam Mama Sa Purusha Kopi Upayayam Na Jane Kim Tavam Matir Iha Grihe Na Biramate. So, also a known verse. Ever since I saw a certain person whose body was washed with his own tears, whose hairs were standing on end, and who stumbled around with a joyous heart while quivering to the extreme, my mind has for some reason become so attached to the form of Krishna that I have no attachment to my family. So, that is the association of the devotees that is required actually in order to advance. So if one is in the association of the advanced devotee, then one will be inspired in devotional service. Prema bhakti ya hoite avidya vinashayate, because love is emanating. Love for Krishna is emanating of the devotee. Love for Radha Krishna, for the associates of Radha Krishna, for Mahaprabhu also. So, And so the symptoms are there of the advanced devotee. So transcendental emotions are there. His body was washed with his own tears. So he was crying so much. So devotee sometimes, the advanced devotee, highly advanced devotee. So sometimes they feel separated from Krishna, they feel totally insignificant being in the material world. And so many things are happening. So the devotees, he sees that I'm very insignificant, totally insignificant. So that is actually a symptom of a devotee. Although he's highly advanced, he thinks I'm very insignificant. So that can be seen. So then he's calling out to the Lord also. So much so that tears may come. So I'm insignificant, oh my Lord, please bestow your mercy upon me. And then tears may come. So when the devotee is highly advanced, they become like torrents of rains. And the body becomes wet, and the cloth becomes wet. So all the times when he's transcendental ecstasy, chanting the holy names, so he feels transcendental pleasure by chanting the holy names. And then tears are coming from the eyes also. Because Krishna, Naman are different. So then he sees Krishna, he sees Krishna's qualities. So he sees Krishna's form, Krishna's qualities. And in the pastimes, then he's feeling so much pleasure. And then he may cry due to transcendental pleasure. But then Krishna is disappearing. And then the devotee is lamenting, feeling separation, and crying in separation. So, and then the hairs are standing on end, also due to transcendental ecstasy, transcendental pleasure. But sometimes also in distress, or a fearful situation is there. So, but then, so the devotees always taking shelter of Krishna. There's a reciprocation with Krishna. So the advanced devotee is transcendently situated as they are in loving exchange with Krishna. But then this transcendental emotions are there. So Staibhav is there, permanent ecstasy. I'm Krishna's friend. Krishna is my beloved, and so on. And then there's an exchange there. A loving exchange. And then when the loving exchange is there, then different ecstatic symptoms are there. Ashta Sattvic Bhav. So like tears coming from the eyes like torrents of rains. Hair standing on end due to ecstasy. The voice is faltering not able to speak properly, body is trembling, the body becomes stunned, or one may fall down unconscious. So that is explained here. Then of course naturally one has no attachment to family. So Jiva Goswami is commenting, the meaning here is, my consciousness, mamamati, dwells on abhiramate, the indescribable Shama Sundar, who has appeared in my heart, and thus my mind does not dwell on my family and house. So, glories of the devotees, or the association of the devotees, are also there in the scriptures, the Bhagavatam, and of course the Vaishnava scriptures. The glories of the devotees are wonderful, and they are numerous. So verses describing the wonderful glories of the devotees, the association of the devotees. So very important, most powerful. The Namyata. The power of chanting the name of the Lord. Yadavadi Mama Shita Vanikena Anugita Shutipatam Agashasto Namagata Priyata Anavakalita Purvam Hantakam Apyastam Tadavadhi Tadat Antarmanasam Sammayativa. Ever since I've heard Narad singing the names of Krishna, which pacify the ears, my heart has become completely blissful, fixed in an unprecedented state of praying. Jiva Goswami's commentary is Shita, cool. Here refers to the cooling effect of hearing Narada chant the names of the Lord. Material existence has a burning effect with its pain. Hearing the chanting of the names relieves a person of material suffering. Manika refers to Narad who plays a veena. But by not naming him directly, all devotees of a similar nature are indicated. So, the extraordinary state, Kam, Avastam, is actually praying. So calm, so that it may mean lust, so material lust, or it may indicate also love, prem. Of course, even prem, so this world, so there's material prem is there. Some loving exchange between the human beings. So that is also mentioned as prem in Sanskrit or Hindi. So there's a loving exchange there with the devotees, with the Lord. And especially for the advanced devotees, or especially the gopis then. So that is sometimes explained as Kam, Kamanuga. So they have of course, transcendental desire to be with Krishna, to, of course, They do everything for Krishna's satisfaction and not for their own. So therefore it is not sense gratification, it is not material, it is spiritual. So that is mentioned then also as calm, and those who are associates of the Lord. Especially gopis, so they have transcendental love. But because it appears to be just like lust also as in this world, so it is also mentioned as calm. But it is completely transcendental and pure. So therefore, the original meaning of the word calm refers to the love of the gopis towards Krishna. And prem also, that it means the love between Krishna and the gopis especially, but then also the friends, and the servants, anybody. In Braj, Krishna is Prananath, the Lord of their lives. So the ordinary state, calm, avastam, is actually praying. Eva is simply ornamental. So in here in Sanskrit, some small words are there which may have different meanings, like cha. And so they are sometimes they're put there in the verse so that the verse becomes complete. But sometimes, of course, it is there also. It is used in Sanskrit. Sometimes it is like completing the verse, so it is added cha. But then, of course, it has some meaning also. So different meanings may be there for cha or even eva, certainly. Jai Nitai Gaura Risham, Jai Krishna Bhagavan.